Uncle Musa removed my underwear. He forced me. It was painful, but he told me that I should not tell anyone. Parents, please be careful. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. My name is Amina. Here is my painful story. I was a happy girl. I lived in a small village with my mother and father. We were poor. We had a small mud house with a leaking roof. When it rained, water dripped inside, making the floor wet and cold. We had only one old mat to sleep on. My father was a farmer. Every morning, he woke up early to go to the farm. He dug the dry, hard ground, hoping to grow food. But the land was bad. The crops did not grow well. Many days, we had nothing to eat. My mother sold fruits in the market. She carried a big basket on her head and walked a long distance to sell her fruits. But people in the village were also poor. Many could not buy fruits. Some days, she came home with an empty basket but no money. We sat in our small house, hungry. My stomach made noises, but I could not cry. I knew my parents had no food to give me. Even though we were poor, I was happy because I had a dream. I wanted to go to school. I wanted to be a teacher. Every morning, I tied my books in a small cloth and ran to school. My school was far, but I did not mind. I walked barefoot on the hot, dusty road. My feet burned, but I kept walking. At school, I sat in front of the class. I listened to my teacher. She said I was a smart girl. She said I would be great one day. I believed her. When I came home, I helped my mother with housework. Then I sat outside and read my books. I wanted to learn. I wanted to be more than a poor village girl. There was a man in our village. His name was Uncle Musa. He was my father's friend. He was a family friend. He was old, with gray hair and kind eyes. He always smiled at me. He gave me sweets. He told me I was special. He called me little teacher because I loved school. I liked him because he was kind. My mother trusted him. She said he was a good man. One evening, my mother went to the market. My father was at the farm. I was alone at home. I sat outside, waiting for my mother to come back. The sun was setting, and the air was cool. Uncle Musa came to our house. He smiled at me. He gave me sweets. I took them and said thank you. Then he locked the door. His face changed. He was not kind anymore. His smile was gone. His eyes looked different. I felt afraid. He held my hands. I tried to pull away, but he was too strong. He covered my mouth. I wanted to scream, but I could not. He hurt me. It was painful. I cried, but he did not stop. My whole body shook. I wanted to run, but I could not move. When he was done, he stood up. He looked at me and said, "Do not tell anyone." Then he left. I sat on the floor and cried. My body hurt. My heart hurt. I did not understand what had happened. I was only 10 years old. I was afraid. When my mother came back, I wanted to tell her, but I was too scared. Uncle Musa told me not to speak. I kept quiet. Days passed. Weeks passed. I felt different. My stomach hurt. I felt sick every morning. My mother said I had malaria. She gave me herbs. I drank them, but I did not feel better. I stopped playing. I stopped running. I sat in the house, feeling tired all the time. My mother looked at me with worry. She asked, "Amina, what is wrong?" I only shook my head. Then my belly started growing. People in the village looked at me. Women whispered when they saw me. Children pointed and laughed. One day, an old woman stopped and looked at me for a long time. Then she said, "She is pregnant." The words made my heart stop. I did not understand. I was a child. How could I be pregnant? My mother cried. She held me and asked, "Who did this to you?" I could not hide it anymore. I whispered, "Uncle Musa." My mother screamed. She ran out of the house. She told the village people. They were angry. Some men wanted to punish Uncle Musa. But he had already run away. Some people looked at me with pity. Some people blamed me. They said I must have done something wrong. I wanted to scream. I wanted to say, I did nothing wrong. But my voice was too small. I had to stop school. My teacher was sad. She said I was a smart girl. But I could not go back. My belly was too big. The children laughed at me. "You have a baby in your stomach," they said. I cried at night when no one was looking. I missed my books. I missed my friends. I missed my old life. My belly grew bigger. I was afraid. I did not know what would happen. I was too young to have a baby. One night, I woke up with sharp pain in my stomach. The pain was too much. I screamed. My mother ran to me. She called the village women. The women came. They held me. They told me to push. I was too small. The pain was like fire. I cried and cried. After many hours, I heard a small cry. My baby was born. A small, weak boy. I looked at him. He was my son. But I was still a child. How could I be a mother? I was too weak to hold him. Too weak to feed him. My mother helped me. But we had no money. We had little food. Life became harder. I wanted my old life back. I wanted to go to school again. But who would take care of my baby? One day, my teacher came to see me. She held my hands. She said, "Amina, you are strong. You must go back to school." I looked at my baby. I thought about my dreams. I thought about the girl I used to be. Then, I made a choice. I tied my baby on my back. I walked to school. Some children laughed. Some people whispered. But I did not listen. I studied. I worked harder than before. I wanted to be more than just a girl with a baby. I wanted to be a teacher. Years passed. I grew up. I finished school. I became a teacher. I stood in front of my class. I looked at the children and said, "Never be silent. Always speak up." People in the village started to listen. They started to protect their daughters. They learned about justice. And in that small village, my cry became a voice.